Welcome to Cooper Talk. I'm your host, Steve Cooper, and remember, I'm only as hip as my guest. And I got to tell you something, people. I'm flipping around the Olympics. I've been watching the Olympics this year, and it is irritating because they sit there, and the problem is, you go to your computer, and they ruin everything. So let's say you want to watch, Usain Bolt or Monica Biles or Phelps, and you don't want to see the results. You think, like Yahoo, which is my homepage, which I should change because of this, you think if I go to Yahoo, they would say, click on here to see the results. Maybe say, gymnastic finals. But no, they give the answer of who won, and then it ruins it for you, because then I got to keep it down from Joanne, because we're going to watch it together, and she doesn't want to know who won. And I just don't understand why, after this whole Olympic thing, and now when I grew up, the Olympics were different because, we would watch ABC, whatever it was, Channel 6 in Philadelphia, we would watch that, and there wasn't the internet. So you never knew who won. But you'd think the internet would change it just so we know that we can go on to a safe place, our internet homepage, and check our email without getting our results ruined. Anyway, we have a great show today. We have I can say he's a legendary bassist. He's a great musician. We have Rudy Sarzo. How you doing, Rudy?
Hi, Steve. How you doing? I'm doing great.
Do you watch the Olympics at all? Do you follow it?
I love the agony and defeat.
Right.
The old commercial we used to watch. Stuff like that. I mostly I tune in for the stories. I root for the underdog, and then for people like Phelps, and Simone and all that. So it's I do watch it, but then again, it win or lose, it has no effect on my life.
Exactly, that's the same way with me. It's like you like to see it, and I always like when people say, "Oh, she only won a bronze." I'm like, "Oh, she only came in third of the whole world." You know what I mean? It's like, come on.
Yeah. Well, at this point in my life, I usually root for the old guy.
Okay.
Or the old girl.
So now you personally, you were born in Cuba, right?
Yes. So I've been told. Yes.
Yeah. Now, when did you start? Was there a lot of music around when you grew up? How did you end up getting into a lifelong profession? And you've played for so many great bands. What made you find a love for music, and did you find it at a young age?
I don't know if it probably is the same thing with most Caribbean countries. We're so Afro-influenced culturally and society. I mean, it's a big part of our society. The African culture. So what that means is that if you got something that you can beat on, you got music, and you can dance, and you can celebrate. So when I was a kid growing up in Cuba, I used to go to sleep every single night. There would be kids older than me around the neighborhood that would gather around a car. Let's say, and back in the day, cars were made out of metal,
right?
Chrome and metal. So they were like really loud, and they were just like, one would take a hubcap, another one would take like a fender or a bumper or whatever, and they start beating on it, ding 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 ding, and no chanting, no singing, just like this huge rhythm going on, and that was like the soundtrack for me falling asleep every night. Latin or African rhythm.
So, hello?
Okay, Steve, sorry about that.
Okay, that's fine. So you grew up with the rhythm. So now did you? Yeah. When did you start getting involved in that rhythm? When did you sit there and start saying, "I want to do this"? Or was it just infused in you, as you said, because you guys heard it every night?
Yeah, but I was a kid then, so I really didn't have any instruments, It was just the musical influence. And everywhere we went, because my folks never hired a babysitter for my brother Robert or me. They always took us everywhere, wherever they went. And they used to go to a lot of outdoor tropical dance parties called verbenas. They were like... and they had this certain sound of the trumpet echoing in the night. It was an amazing. Everything sounded just terrific. Outdoors, but usually by the beach. Or we used to live pretty close to what is called El Malecón, which is like a big seawall that surrounds most of Havana, because Havana sits on a bay, Morro Bay. And so, we had the carnivals, with a lot of marching bands. And I don't mean like marching like John Philip Sousa marches. I'm talking
Right.
about, congas and carnival music, And so brass instruments were really, really like echo in my head. I mean, the electric guitar didn't really take in until like I moved to the United States. And then, of course, it really actually coincided with my family being relocated to New Jersey. And in 1964, we were there. We were in West New York, New Jersey, and we witnessed the Beatles playing on Ed Sullivan. And that kind of changed everything for me.
See, so many musicians say that, because I was born in '63, so I didn't see the Beatles. I mean, if I did, I wouldn't remember. But
come on, you were a baby. Of course
Yeah.
you could have. It had a major impact on everybody, even babies.
I mean, so many people saw it. So what was it that just sat there when you saw it and you went, "Holy crap, man! This is amazing." What took you over to it?
The girls screaming for them. That's how I understood. I said, I want that. I want that adulation. That's what got me into it. I was a fat little kid, who could not get the attention of the ladies, in elementary school. So I saw that as my ticket.
So you went out and got a guitar like the next day after the Beatles, or how did that
Well,
happen?
it took a while. My parents, we were Cuban. First of all, we were Cuban refugees. We came to the United States just like everybody else came from Cuba at that time in the early '60s legally. You had to wait for a sponsor to claim you from the U.S., get a passport, get a visa, get everything, and then get the airline ticket, and then land legally in the United States. And then after that, you ask for political asylum, which is you become a Cuban refugee, and and then later on you get the green card and so on. So it took a while for my parents to get some money to order an old Craftsman acoustic guitar from Sears catalog.
Okay.
And I'll never forget the day it arrived, because we had never ordered anything in a box from Sears before. It was this huge box that came in, and actually I looked at it for the first couple of days before I even had the nerve to strike a chord or just strum it, make some noise, because it was just like the most magnificent piece of art I had ever seen, with this beautiful zebra striped guitar, which is amazing.
So you start playing it and you just fall in love with it?
Yeah, I mean, I spent most of my formative years not knowing what the hell I was doing, not even how to tune the guitar and everything, but I just loved the vibration of it. Prior to that, I had in school bands. I picked up the trumpet. That was too loud for the apartment we were living in New Jersey, so my mom used to shut me in the closet to practice my trumpet. I got videos of that, 8mm videos to prove it. And it's all a matter of budget. I mean, nowadays, it's pretty affordable, for a child to actually get their hands on an instrument. There's organizations that make sure that even though there might not be an after-school program, that the kids actually get their hands on instruments. And as a matter of fact, I've done charity work, benefits, for being involved with such organizations. So, but back in the day, this was like the beginning. Nobody thought that this rock and roll thing was going to last or anything. So, playing a guitar was not part of the curriculum in school yet. As it became, 5 years later, it started with jazz bands. People were saying, okay, well, if the kid is going to play guitar, let's give him an education and have him part of the jazz ensemble. But that was after I actually graduated from high school, so I did not partake in that. And so that's how I started playing the guitar.
Now, how did you end up switching to the bass?
That's a really good question. Actually, we moved from New Jersey back down to Miami, and back in the day, our social network was hanging out on the block.
Right.
Each block had, our little neighbors, or clubs. I mean, if you cross the street, you were not part of that club because you didn't live on that street, on that side of the street. So it was pretty much segmented like that. So I went over to the garage that the kids were rehearsing, and I showed up and I go, "Hi, I'm Rudy, and I play guitar. I want to join your band." I said, "Well, we got too many guitar players, so if you want to join the band, you got to play bass." So it didn't really strike me until like lately, like maybe a year ago, that during an interview like this, that I realized that I've been living my life according to somebody else's advice of like, "Yeah, if you want to join the gang, pick up the bass." Because for the longest time, ever since that moment, every time I picked up a guitar, it was painful because it equaled rejection. It equaled the moment that I showed up with a guitar and I was told, "No, you can't be a part of this unless you change."
Right.
So now I play guitar a lot just to make up.
Hello?
You there, Steve?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Now, do you looking back, do you ever sit there and think your career? I mean, because you've had such a long, successful career. Do you ever think that may have not happened if you had never started playing the bass?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I really love the bass. I just didn't understand what the function of it was, within a band. I mean, I was trying to pick up notes and kind of like play what Paul McCartney was playing and James Jimerson and all these guys, and then I got a formal education on playing bass or music theory. When I went to college, that was my secondary major in college, sight reading and composition and all that. But then what happened was I started playing clubs a lot. So my biggest education was actually playing bars every single night while I was still going to college.
Now, where'd you go to college at?
In Miami-Dade.
Okay, so you were playing the Florida. What kind of music were you guys playing when you would play these gigs?
Well, it was top 40, so we would do anything from Paul Anka, "You're Having My Baby," to "Smoke on the Water." Whatever was on the radio, we played. So which was great education because it was a broad spectrum of musical styles. Not like today. Today is very common that if you want to get a gig in a club, you play a tribute band. And so you're getting one artist, one band's perspective of their musical skills. Whereas if you play top 40, it was broad, especially back then. I mean, we would do Johnny Cash, whatever was on the radio. We will play that.
It's so funny you say that because remember, we used to go camping and we would drive and hear AM radio, which was, in like 68, 69, there wasn't really FM. I mean, we didn't listen to it in a car, but you're right. You would hear everything from Neil Diamond to something else, and it was just all across the dial. And you, as a kid, you'd my first album was Tom Jones because it was just, you'd hear it on the radio and you go, "This is cool music." And you're right. You would hear so many different things on the radio.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And so we had to play that. And it wasn't until like the mid-'70s when disco came into Miami real strong, because of the big influence of the Snowbirds that would winter from the north. They would winter in Florida, so they brought that with them. The influence of if we're going to be going to bars that play disco music, either with a DJ or actually with a band. So overnight, we were handed a new set list by the club owner and says, "Okay, you have to learn these songs, or else you can't gig here anymore." And that's when I actually the band that I was playing in, we went full disco.
Okay.
Which for the bass player was great.
Right.
I love that. But my brother was in the band. He was a guitar player, so he got to do a lot of waka waka, on the wah wah, waka waka waka.
Yeah, I was thinking that it'd be great for the bass player. You're right.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
So you're playing in these cover bands now. How do you gravitate out to LA? I know, and you got involved with Quiet Riot and stuff like that. What was the course to that? Because you're in Florida, you're in Miami, you're playing disco. where do you think your music career is going to go?
I had a whole different point of view. I mean, I wanted to make a career, and I wanted to be creative, and I wanted to be involved in the recording industry. And there was no such thing as far as a label goes in Miami. There were plenty of recording studios that a lot of the big name bands and producers were using, such as Criteria and Bill Zimzik's studio down in near Coconut Grove. And you know, a lot of the big names would go and record in Florida just because it was, you know, they had great studios. Tom Dowd, one of the biggest producers, you know, from that era, you know, he had a residency down there, and he would bring all his bands to record down, you know, like the Bee Gees and so on. That's how the Bee Gees wound up in Florida, you know, because of the great recording studios down there. So, but there was no label. So I knew that I had to get out of there. If I wanted to record, I had to either go to New York or go to LA. So New York was closer. So my brother and I and some other guys in the band, we packed it up, put stuff in a U-Haul, and put a hitch to one of our cars, and we drove up to Utica, New York. And then around that time, my brother got married, and he decided to stay in the Jersey area, and I decided to keep moving. So went up in Chicago, spent a lot of time in the Chicago Midwestern market. It was a lot of clubs, especially in Chicago. I mean, you could make a living or survive, you know, playing clubs in Chicago. And then also, you know, the same agent would book you around Michigan and Indiana and, you know, places like Ohio, Iowa, you know, just go, Wisconsin, you know, just play that circuit. But then again, we became a bar band. And we were, you know, we were actually gearing up and using the time to hone our craft at songwriting. But we knew that we had to leave the Midwest and either go to East Coast or West Coast. And so we decided to go to the West Coast with basically the core of that band, which actually included Frankie Banali in there. And we wound up in L.A. And when I was in L.A., that's when I met the guys from Quiet Riot, you know, Randy Rhoads and Kevin and Drew Forsythe.
Now, you know, how, in your eyes, how great of a guitar player is Randy Rhoads? Because we hear so much great things about him, and we didn't get to sit there and really watch, you know, him hit the full potential. But like, because you played music for so long and you've been in music, when you saw him the first time, did you say this guy is just off the hook? I mean, what happened?
Yeah, that was my initial impression. Even though I'm actually the only musician who got to play with Randy in both the Quiet Riot version, you know, the way he was playing locally, and then when he joined Ozzy. So I actually witnessed the metamorphosis of Randy, and it was just amazing because what happened was while we were in LA, we were like chasing our tails trying to get a record deal. And when I joined Quiet Riot, already, you know, it was at that cusp where Van Halen was the last rock band, you know, heavy metal rock band to get signed out of the LA area. After that, they shut the doors, you know, the labels did. And they started looking for bands like the Knack and the Motels, you know, punk, right, new wave, you know, stuff like that, because that's what was happening. That's what the radio was playing, you know. And so we kind of like, you know, and at that time, you know, you had bands that were bands like London, who later became Motley Crue. You had Rad, you had Dokken, you had Great White. Basically, the same bands that made it in the '80s. We were still, you know, we were around in the late '70s in LA trying to make it, you know, and so that's when Randy got the gig with Ozzy, and as soon as he joined Ozzy, Ozzy told him, "Listen, just be yourself." Just, you know, write what's you. Be true to yourself, and just you know, whatever comes out, write that, and we'll make some music, you know. So that gave Randy complete freedom to really break away from trying to please the record companies, because Ozzy already had a record deal. So all they have to do was put some awesome songs together, which of course they did, you know, with Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman. You know, so the Randy that the world knows, the people outside of LA growing up in that era, basically have, Dario the Madman and Blizzard of Oz as a reference. Of course, there's some recordings available on YouTube, but to actually witness Randy playing live, even though there's some video from the Whiskey and the Starwood, but to be watching him playing live at the Starwood with Quiet Riot is completely different from watching him playing with Ozzy, and that was just within maybe 2 years.
Okay.
One from the other, So I mean, it was a fast growing up musically for Randy, And also going to England, he was surrounded by musicians who had more of a pure classical connection than what he could find in Los Angeles. He would go to classical teachers in England, people who had studied under the masters. So the information that he was getting was first and second generation, classical instruction.
Now you play with him in Quiet Riot. Now, how did you end up playing with Ozzy?
Oh, because Randy recommended me. When I joined the band, they had already recorded Blizzard of Oz, and Dario the Madman was in the can waiting to be released. So Tommy Aldridge replaced Lee Kerslake and the drummer who recorded on those two albums, and then they were looking for a bass player, and they needed somebody really quick and somebody that they could trust. So Randy already knew my ethics, work ethics, and he knew that I was not going to join the band and all of a sudden, go out there, start, drinking, taking drugs, and becoming a liability, and also that I could play the music. So he recommended me, and they trusted, Sharon and Ozzy trusted Randy's word that I was going to be the right guy, because that's what they needed. They needed somebody to go there quickly and do it and not be a liability on the road. And that's how I got the gig.
Now, what's that like? I mean, you're going from, you're playing bars, you're on the strip trying to get stuff happen. Then all of a sudden you're playing with a big act. I mean, did you what was it like just to sit there? I mean, it's like overnight, your crowd base changes. As a performer, what do you go through? I mean, those big nights of the big concert halls, are you nervous at first, or you just can't wait to get out there?
Well, it was definitely a celebration. I remember every single night that Randy and I would look at each other from behind the amplifier stacks and kind of look at each other and smile and give us, the thumbs up, like, wow, this is the coolest thing ever, Because it was, every night was the Super Bowl with us. There was not... That band at its worst was great.
Okay.
And I would say 99% of the night of the shows were magic. So, and it's not because I was involved. No, it's just because Randy and Ozzy and Tommy, they were incredible musicians. I was just the guy filling in there, keeping up with everybody, basically. But I. One of the things that really, really helped me, I would say 90%, that it really helped me to actually what you just brought up, how to keep everything in focus and not let it overwhelm me, was the fact that I had a spiritual center by the time that I got the opportunity to audition. I understood where that gift was coming from. So I understood the blessing that it was to actually be in that band and did not abuse it.
Okay, so you basically you were grown up about it.
I've seen a lot of grown-ups that just take things for granted and abuse many things. So I wasn't grown up. I thank God, and I found a spiritual path that I follow even to today that I didn't have right before I got the phone call to audition when I had a basically spiritual. And so, since you asked me about that, I'm giving you the truth.
Okay, cool. You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. So now, what was it like though touring? I mean, a big tour. What is it like? Is it? I mean, because you're going from city to city, but you're going in a nice, in first class. I mean, you're going. What is that like? I mean, did it just make it really like just a complete difference from when you were on the road, as you said, in Chicago, Milwaukee, and Iowa? It must have been night and day.
Well, this is okay. So my first impression, we were on the road with Ozzy, and there was a budget for the tour because there was not enough of a tour support from the label from Epic, who was the distributor of the record, even though it was on Jet Records. So there was a lot of financial risks that were taken by Sharon's family. Don Arden, who actually owned Jet Records and was the manager for Ozzy and so on. They really believed in Ozzy. They really did. But then again, there were some budgetary constraints because it was the first tour, the first solo tour for Ozzy. So, promoters were not giving huge guarantees. So, we were on, everybody was in one tour bus, which was wonderful. You get to know everybody. And we were staying in decent, Holiday Inn hotels, and then with time, as the band proved itself, we started having a little bit more improved accommodations. But, it really didn't matter. Personally, and I would say to everybody in the band, it was all about getting up on stage and just like doing, being in that magnificent band, playing those unbelievable songs every single night. How we got there, as long as it was comfortable and we were comfortable, that's all that really mattered.
So you're playing with them, and now after Randy's death, is that when you decided to leave the band? Is that how you went back to Quiet Riot? Yeah,
I mean, after Randy passed away, it left a huge hole in that band, major. So I lost my joy of playing music because basically I was just surviving every single show every night, just playing notes. My heart was broken, so I couldn't really put my heart into it. I had no heart left, So I had to find a way to get joy back into my playing, and so basically I left one of the biggest bands in the world for the complete unknown, which was playing with Kevin and Frankie and Carlos Cavasso, and going out and with the mental health version of the band.
Now you start playing it, and about what was the Sunset Strip like at that time? Was it at the full level, or was it getting to that level? I mean, because you said before the bands after Van Halen weren't getting signed. When did the whole start to change where bands like Quiet Riot and Poison and Motley Crue were starting to get signed? Was it that time when you would join back with Quiet Riot?
No. I tell you, when I joined the mental health version of the band, the type of music that we were doing was considered dinosaur music.
Okay.
I was in my, I was still young, and the people that I was playing with we were still young, but we were considered like, you guys are older, with the music industry. So basically, Quiet Riot took the only deal in town. That was Spencer Crawford from who was he owned Pasha Records, and he produced the album. And basically what he had in mind was to find a band with a singer that could sing "Come on, Feel the Noise." That was his vision.
Okay.
And he was right, because that was the hit from the record. When I left Ozzy and rejoined Quiet Riot, or joined the Quiet Riot version, the mental health version of Quiet Riot, 1982 going into 83, still it was gloom and doom for the type of bands like us. You have somebody like maybe like Vandenberg, the group Vandenberg, playing at the Roxy, and of course they were signed to a European deal. But as far as the local bands, we were not getting signed yet. Well, we were like the only one, right? As a matter of fact, we had the Mental Health record finished, done in the can, waiting with a release date of March, and we couldn't even get a manager interested. We're just handing them what will become in November a #1 album,
Right.
and nobody was interested because they didn't get it. And if it wasn't for MTV, we won't be having this conversation, because it was definitely MTV that broke Quiet Riot. It wasn't really as much radio as it was actually MTV that did it.
Well, it's funny. I was the 35th anniversary of MTV last week, I believe, and you're right. I mean, for me, the videos. We loved. That's what turned us on to all this new music. How did you get the video done before you really started getting music play?
Well, the first video that we did was "Bang Your Head." That cost like $10,000, and the label fronted. Of course, once we make money, that we pay for that. The band pays for all the videos. It's totally recoupable unless you have some kind of an amazing record deal that it's non-recoupable. But that's not the deal that Quiet Riot had. So we recorded that and we gave it to MTV, and they played it a bit. It helped. Then we started doing these shows. One of them was called Friday Nights, and it was us playing live at Perkins Palace in I think it's Glendale out there. Yeah, and it since we were a local band, the original Quiet Riot fan club just came in and just took over the place. So we had banners everywhere. We look like headliners.
Okay.
Like a major headlining act. So we actually, as much as MTV helped us, that show really initially was what opened the doors to Quiet Riot, because it was a national broadcast on network TV, whereas MTV, it was still available only in pockets of the country. And something that is on ABC Friday nights, rock show, that went everywhere. So we started, after the album was released in March, we went on tour with Scorpions. They were warming up to play the US Festival. Remember the US Festival in 1983? Okay. So by the time that we got to the last show that we did with them in Denver, they were, the promoter, Barry Fay, who was booking the US Festival, was looking for a band to replace Joe Walsh, because Joe Walsh was moved from the Metal Day to the date, to the following day that had David Bowie and Stevie Nicks and all that. They thought it was a better fit. So Barry Fay saw us opening up for Scorpions and said, "Hey, do you guys want to come in and do this gig at the US Festivals?" And we say, "Sure, of course." So we were, and they had us. They gave us the option of either opening the show or going second after Motley Crue, and we said no, we want to open the show. So we did, and that helped immensely to create a buzz about Quiet Riot. Then after that, we went on tour with ZZ Top, and that's when that Friday nights that I'm telling you about really started kicking in. Then after that, we went on tour with Loverboy, and then Loverboy did not pick up the second leg of us opening up for them on the second leg of the tour. So we went on our own headlining with Queensryche. They had just had their EP Queen of the Reich released. So then after that, we joined the Iron Maiden tour, followed by Black Sabbath. By the time we hit Black Sabbath, that was November of '83, and that's when we went to #1. But right before Maiden, that's when the Come and Feel the Noise video, June or July of '83, started hitting MTV, and that's what really broke the band. While we were touring with Iron Maiden, I remember going opening up for Maiden at Madison Square Garden, and our album Mental Health and the single, it was number one in the city, and with a number one video on MTV. It was amazing. I mean, I had never been to New York at a time, in New York City, at a time where I could actually walk down the street and people knew me.
Right.
They would yell my name, guys in cabs, cab drivers or whatever. Hey, Quiet Riot, Rudy, whatever. It was like, wow, this is really amazing. That's the power of MTV. It was just phenomenal.
Yeah, because that video was huge. I mean, I always sit through, and that song. I mean, if I say, if you're over 35 and you don't know that song, you're someone I'm not going to want to hang out with. You know what I mean? It's like there's certain songs that everybody knows. So to be a part of that must just be insane when you look back.
It was really insane. It was really insane. But what was really interesting? It was like I already been through that climb up the mountain with Ozzy, because when Ozzy started out, when we went out for the Blizzard of Oz, it was a build. It was a fast build, but nevertheless, it was a build. So here I go again with Quiet Riot going up that same mountain. Going to the top, and the landscape looks exactly the same. That if you're on tour with a brand new band and you start seeing certain things develop along the way, that what your final destination, if you keep going at that speed, or if things progress with the same path, if you follow the same path, you're going to reach the top.
So you go from Ozzy and you ascend it, as you said. Then you go with Quiet Riot and you ascend, and you guys are up top now. Now, what made you decide to leave that band?
Conflicts, personal conflicts. Things that I didn't have the right tools at that time in my life to actually deal with certain things.
Okay.
And I don't think anybody in the band or outside of the band, not even management, had the tools to deal with those things, And so it became a situation that was best for everybody for me to move on.
So now what do you decide? I mean, when you move on and you've had you've been with two great bands, which is more than most musicians can ever say in their life, where do you find yourself mentally when you're sitting there? I know you went on, you started the band with Tommy Aldridge. How did that happen?
Well, Tommy and I, of course, we had played together in Ozzy. So it was basically, a combination of like people that you trust, to embark on a new journey. You always take people that you enjoy being in their company and people that you trust that are going to have certain ethics, work ethics and everything, they're not going to be a detriment to the collective vision of what you're creating, So Tommy, of course, being the premier rock drummer that he is, it was always not only a pleasure, but to go on stage with Tommy, I don't have to worry about anything. I just have to worry about myself, being the best I can be, So it's people, to play with people like that, it's like the ultimate experience.
Now, what's the relationship with the bassists and drummers? Because I always look back to when I used to watch the Rolling Stone videos, and Charlie Watts and Bill Wyman would always just be like just grooving on each other. Is that what it's like? Do you guys does the drummer and the bassist have a big camaraderie in the band? Like, are you guys, because you guys are the backbone of the band. I mean, do you guys, when you walk in, sit there and know that you're going to be leading off each other?
Well, I consider the drummer to be the conductor. He's holding the sticks, the batons. He just happens to be beating on things with it, But it's essentially the same thing. You have to build the rhythm section from the bottom up. And to me, the foundation of any rhythm section is the drummer. And when I say rhythm section, I'm including the guitars. Because even if you're Eddie Van Halen, you're only going to be playing a solo for like 8/16 measure of the song. The rest of the song, you're going to be playing rhythm guitar. And you better be locking in with the drummer too. So me as the bass player, the guy who's in between the rhythm and melody, I'm very conscientious of what everybody's playing, melodically and rhythmically, And to me, given the option of either running around the stage or just standing by a drummer and grooving, I'd rather go for that. Always have. I only move around the stage out of necessity.
Okay.
And boredom sometimes, but mostly necessity.
So after you're playing with all these great bands, then you end up with Whitesnake. I mean, did you get invited to Whitesnake? How did that happen? Because once again, you're with another great band. I mean, you're sitting there, you're jumping from these great bands. You must have had a very good reputation. And so did they just contact you? Because I know it was that.
Again, through your work, you build a trust, factor. I can give you names of many musicians who are on call all the time because people trust them to do what they're called in for, and to deliver, and these are people that, but you can't do that overnight. Once in a while I'll run into like a new musician that's just come into town and they're trying to break into the scene, and I go, well, listen, my advice is to build your trust factor. You can't break into the scene. I mean, you might, there might be a fluke, but if you really want to sustain your career, you have to build your trust factor. You have to start working at the bottom and build your way to the top and be solid all the way through. Have great work ethics, stay away from drugs and alcohol, anything that would be detrimental to your musical skills and your social skills. Stay away from that and just build a strong foundation, not only as a player, but as somebody that will be a team player.
No, you're a team player, you got the good reputation. But when you go to play with a band like Whitesnake, do you have to learn their whole catalog? I mean, because, they've been around for a while. Like when you go to a new band, I know you play with Blue Oyster Cult, who my friend Mark Esposito saw you play with, and they're his favorite band ever. When you go to these bands, do you sit there and do you have to basically learn every song? Because if they sit there in concert and they go, hey, we're going to play this, or do you have to learn a limited amount of songs? How do you approach it as a professional?
Well, with Whitesnake, we would learn the set. It was kind of like predetermined. These are the songs that we're going to do on this tour. Once in a while, we throw in something, but it was very rare. Because it's two different environments. When when I tour with Whitesnake, it was a major production, lights and sound and staging and all of that. So which means is that I don't know if your listeners are really aware of this, but most of the lighting is computerized nowadays. Everything from song to song. So it's very rare that a show that you watch today in Milwaukee will be completely different from the one you see in Minneapolis the following day, because there's a certain programming that goes with the production of it. I'm sure that there's bands out there that have gotten around this and they're ready for that and they make certain accommodations, but that was not the case that we had in Whitesnake. Whitesnake was pretty much sequenced, what the set list was going to be. Whereas when I toured with Blue Oyster Cult, we didn't have that type of production. We weren't carrying our own lights and sound and backline or anything, So there was more freedom to actually, change the set. As a matter of fact, we would not know what songs we were going to play until Eric Bloom would make the set list 5 minutes before we go on.
Okay.
That was tradition, and I had to learn about 50 songs from their catalog, and they're all jams, every single song, and there would be once in a while somebody from the audience would yell out a song, and Eric would turn to the band and say, "Yeah, we're doing that, and you better know it."
Right. Now, as a musician, what do you like better? Do you like the spontaneity of that, or do you like when you know what you're going to do? Like with Whitesnake, you know your set. Does that get a little tiresome or sometimes, or does a little spontaneity really kick in for you as a musician viewpoint?
Yeah, well, in a situation like Whitesnake, it was, you're basically you're trying to recreate the master that you did the night before, and what really made it different was the crowd, because you're playing in a different arena or stadium, whatever you have to be playing at environment, and there's a whole different dashboard in front of you, so you play off that, there's a whole different landscape. So you feed from that, the energy. It's very it's the crowd and the band at its best. We're one, rather than us being a separation. There's no separation between the band and the crowd, or there should not be. It's very interactive. You have the crowd reacting to the band and the band reacting to the crowd, And whereas with Blue Oyster Cult, it was more intimate settings. And I also enjoy that because, there's certain intimacy and certain things sonically that you can actually feed from easier than to be in a really huge production, that you have to rely and monitor system. I mean, nowadays in a situation like that, I would wear in-ears, and to correct that. But back in the day, we didn't have that technology yet.
Now you're playing all these years, and then you wrote a book. How did you come to write that book? You wrote Off the Rails?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, it's available on Kindle now. It's off print. It's on Kindle. And actually, it's the number one. It's been number one for like 13 weeks in the metal genre on Kindle. So I'm very, very, very happy about that. Mostly because, I get to share my memories of Randy, which is the only reason why I wrote the book. There were so many conspiracy theories surrounding Randy's death 10 years ago or 12 years ago when I actually started working on writing the book, that what I really wanted to do is to give a defined, clear picture of the series of events that led to the crash, and with one focus, one goal was to answer what was it like to play with Randy Rhoads, which is the number one question I get asked when I travel around the world. So that's why I wrote the book,
Well, it must be great when you look and you see it's number one, and it's a tribute to your friend. I mean, that must just be a great feeling for you, just internally.
I know, because there's a new generation of musicians coming out. I mean, you just go to YouTube and you see all these wonderful young players, and the reason why is because music really it's enjoyed by everybody. It transcends religion, spirituality, ethnicity, cultural. It's everything. It's music. Music is the most wonderful gift that we have on this planet. And young people really get it. They really do. They gravitate to it so fast. And right now, there's so many resources available, educational resources available online, that I even take advantage of them on a daily basis, to improve my musical skills. So I can just imagine, young people that are really, they absorb things so much easier than somebody my age nowadays. I got to work out a little bit more because my database.
Right.
So my brain is full, man.
I know the feeling. I know. You sit there and go, wait a second. How'd you figure that out? I'll look at the computer. I'll go, huh?
Yeah.
Huh? Someone's like, look, you do this. I'm like, huh? So,
yeah.
So now you also, you put together some of these super groups sometimes. Like you were on tour with Gunzo, right?
Oh, yeah. That was Tracy Guns and me. Yeah.
Now, how does that happen? Do you just sit there and go, "Hey, I want to"?
It's not really a super group. It's just Tracy and I having fun going out there and playing.
So how does that happen? You just sit there and you go, "Hey, let's just throw a tour together." I mean, that must be cool. Just sit there, you get a buddy, and then you just sit there, and then you know people will come see you. That must be a great feeling.
Yeah, because sometimes you just it's kind of like cleansing your palate. Individually, he and I, we wanted to do certain things that we had not had the opportunity to do before with certain bands that we've been in. So we picked material accordingly to that. Stuff that we really want to play, not stuff that we have to play.
Now, you're very involved with pets, right?
Well, the way I look at it is I anytime that I have an opportunity to raise awareness of shelter animals that are available for rescue, pets, whether they're kittens or puppies or even ducks, whatever, and it's very simple. I hope that more people get to do it. I mean, anytime you get that sort of information through your timeline on Facebook or Twitter, just share it because there's going to be somebody out there who's looking, to save a life or have their life saved by one of these wonderful creatures.
Now, you've been playing bass for all these years, and then I did a little reading. You're an animator. Is that true?
Yeah.
But a very good one. A very good one, I've heard.
Well, this is what happened. It just came out of creative necessity. I started losing the clarity of my vision, with age. And it got to a point that it was very hard for me to play, like, let's say, a 5-string bass on stage. As soon as the spotlight would hit me, I would look down and my strings would be like this big blob of chrome or metal, So I started to lose joy in my playing because I couldn't really see what I was doing. Whereas for me to sit in front of my laptop with my glasses on was no problem.
Okay.
So I started gravitating creatively more towards that. And then one day I made a career decision, which was to get LASIK. And I got monovision, which is one eye for reading and one eye for driving. And it changed my life completely. I mean, as it was being done on me, the process, I could see clearly, everything was getting more in focus. It was really freaky. And now I enjoy playing so much again that I really, really spend most of the time just with my bass on me and making music and having fun.
Now you also you're I know just I think was it last weekend you did the was it School of Rock or what's that? Because that looks cool. Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp.
Yes, actually, Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp. It's not really School of Rock because it's completely different. It's a whole different experience. I mean, last camp we had Judas Priest as our special guest. I mean, you don't get that on any School of Rock.
Right.
This is a Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp, exclusive. But sometimes I do get younger musicians, like for example, my band, which is not the norm, but I had on this camp, I had a 13-year-old drummer, great drummer, and 2 guitar players, 15 and 16. And then I had a great singer from Bulgaria, who has been in the country for a few years, but he does a great AC/DC, Bon Scott.
Okay.
He does a great Bon Scott. So it was really a great camp because we had some really highly skilled musicians joining me at the camp, and they all of them, including myself, got to play with the guys from Judas Priest.
So that must be fun. And then, so what are these? What is the camp like? What do people come and do they just jam with you guys, or do you give them insight, or how's it work?
Yeah, it's not really a jam because as soon as about a week or 2 weeks before the camp, you start communicating with your campers, and you start reassessing, what their skill level is and what their wish list of songs and things to accomplish at the camp is. So before you even meet you start putting together a program for, let's say, for example, Judas Priest camp. We were given a list of songs that Judas Priest wanted to perform with the campers. So our band, we picked about 3 or 4. So we jam on those, and we know, as you're playing them with for the first time with the campers, you know which ones are going to be the strongest songs. It's easy. Which one sounds the best, due to the skill level of the musicians. So you stick with those, and then you build on that. Then you start asking each guy in the band. So, at home with your own band or your friends, what songs do you play? So you start building like an alternate list. It's because we not only do we perform with the special guests at the camp, but also we perform with them, with our band by itself. Let's say a Lucky Strike in Hollywood.
Right.
So we do like 3 songs with our Judas Priest, and then on Sunday night, the following night, we play with Judas Priest, 1 song on stage at the Whiskey, with the whole band, except for Glenn Tipton, Rob Halford, everybody, Scott, Richie and Ian, And as a matter of fact, I wasn't going to play bass because Ian Hill was playing bass, and I thought, man, this is so much freaking fun. I'm going to stay up there on stage and just turn down a little bit and let Ian be like the main bass. But I'm not getting off the stage. This is too cool. So I did that.
Now, how often do you do these? The fantasy.
I'm sorry?
How often do you do the fantasy camps?
Oh yeah, I've been doing that for 8 years, and it's the best way to give back to not only the people that have been supporting, all of us musicians, the fans, because most of the people that attend the camp, well, I would say that they're not professional musicians. Actually, they're either doctors, lawyers, people from all walks of life, and we had members of the military, you name it, and or like I just mentioned, we have kids, teenagers that attend too. So it's a way for me to share things that I've learned with them, kind of like take them by the hand through my own personal journey that I've been through. And also, a way to say thank you for your support all these years, to the people who are not teenagers.
Right. Well, you know what? The hour's almost up. I really want to thank you for coming on. This was great because I'm a big music guy, and I love when I get musicians on. And I know I had Tracy on a few weeks ago. And now, how can people follow you? Do they follow you on Twitter? Give your Twitter information and give all that stuff.
Yeah, it's just Rudy Sarzo on Twitter. And then on Facebook is official Rudy Sarzo. It's whenever you see my page and I have my little dog with me, that's my page.
All right, well, cool. Well, people follow him. Go check out the music. You gotta love music. Go tonight. Go listen to some Quiet Riot. I do it all the time on weekends. I'll sit here, and if Joanne's working, if she's on set, I'll be at my computer. I always go to YouTube, and I always think, what song am I moving for? And Quiet Riot always pops up in there. And that's just all of them. So people, you got to go. So go follow him. It's Rudy Sarzo. It's Sarzo. So go follow him on Twitter. Just check him out. Follow me on Twitter. It's at Cooper Talk. That's at Cooper Talk. Also, go to my website, coopertalk.net. I have 545 episodes up there, and I constantly post new ones. You can email me, Cooper, at coopertalk.net. Tell me what guests you want to get, who you want to get. I can try. I had a guy a few weeks ago said I should get Keith Powell, who was on 30 Rock, and what happened? I got Keith Powell. Also, don't forget iTunes and Stitcher, Cooper Talk, one word. Instagram, Cooper Talk 1. Words with Friends, Cooper Talk 1, which I will play you. And my other website, dear to my heart, no lie, stopthesalt.com. Remember when I had that heart problem a few years ago? I got out, I wrote a 120-page cookbook. It's 120 recipes, easy to make. No pictures to intimidate you. No long list of ingredients. If you don't have cumin, don't worry. You don't need cumin. So go get that. Go to stopthesalt.com. Buy it there. You can buy it at Barnes & Noble or Amazon. But if you buy it from stopthesalt.com, I will sign it, and I make more money. And that's what it's all about. So people, go follow Rudy Sarzo. check out his music, check out the bands, check out rock, because, it's just music which keeps us going. So once again, stopthesalt.com, at Cooper Talk, Cooper at coopertalk.net. And remember, I'm Steve Cooper. I'm only as hip as my guests. Don't forget, drink your water, eat your vegetables, take your vitamins, and I will talk to you guys next week.